Yesterday, I taught you how to practice observing the mind. The mind can become heavy. When a good or bad mental fabrication occurs, the mind gets heavy. This fabrication is uncontrollable, and every fabrication brings suffering. It is impossible for an unpracticed mind not to fabricate. It is used to fabricating. This is so because it is ignorant of the Four Noble Truths. As long as the mind is ignorant, it will continue fabricating. The Four Noble Truths are about suffering, the cause of suffering, its cessation, and the path to cessation. When we study, we practice from where we are. We have suffering. Suffering is our body and mind. We practice until we see the truth that the body is not desirable. The body just has varying degrees of suffering. It is not alternating between physical pleasure and displeasure. When the mind understands this, the cause of suffering will be eradicated. When the mind truly sees suffering, it lets go of the cause of suffering. The cause of suffering is desires and cravings. So, when we observe and see that the body is nothing but suffering, and this suffering just varies in intensity, the mind will be free from craving the body to be physically happy. It will also be free of the craving for the body to be free from physical discomfort. Desiring physical pleasure is sensual cravings. Once pleasure is obtained, the craving to cling to it is craving for existence. The craving to be free from displeasure is craving for non-existence. So, all cravings result from the ignorance of suffering. Once a mind truly knows the suffering of the body, that mind will be free from the cravings of the body. Likewise, if a mind truly knows the truth of the mind, that mind will see itself as pure suffering, and this suffering only varies in intensity. This is difficult to see. Just seeing the body as pure suffering is difficult. Because you usually see that the body alternates between comfort and discomfort, seeing the mind as pure suffering is even more difficult, because it is delicate. You only see that the mind alternates between happiness and sadness. If the mind sees that it can be happy or sad, it will crave and struggle to achieve happiness. Composition or fabrication arises. When the mind craves, it struggles. This struggle is being or becoming. Practice every day. Observe whether the body is alternating between sensual pleasure and displeasure. Or is it full of sensual displeasure of different intensities? Observe whether the mind is alternating between happiness and unhappiness. Or is it full of varying degrees of unhappiness? If you can truly see that, the body and the mind are only suffering with different intensities, you can let go of the cause of suffering and cravings. But if you still see that the body and the mind still have some pleasurable aspect, the mind will crave happiness and pleasure. It will crave the cessation of displeasure. Cravings and desires will arise. So, ignorance of the truth is the source of cravings. Once the mind craves, it attaches and struggles. It attaches to objects like good or bad feelings, happiness or suffering. Once it attaches, it will bind with sensory perception. This is hard to observe. But if you keep practicing, you can sometimes see this phenomenon, even if you are still a layperson. One commoner told me that he sometimes sees his mind letting go of itself. Sometimes the mind picks itself up. He did not know why the mind kept doing that. It did so because the mind was still ignorant of the truth. The mind did not realize that itself is nothing but suffering. If the mind sees itself as alternating between happiness and unhappiness, it will like happiness and dislike unhappiness. This leads to struggle. When the mind struggles, it holds on to itself. Once the mind arises, birth has arisen. Clinging to sensory perceptions then arises. And so will suffering. The clinging to sensory perception, especially clinging to the mind, is called birth. Once birth and clinging happen, suffering follows immediately. Why can suffering immediately arise in the mind? Because the object that the mind picks up is suffering. Physical phenomena are suffering. Eyes, ears, nose, tongue, and body are the physical. All the abstract, the mind and mental compositions are suffering. If the mind does not see the truth, you cling on to and perceive the suffering as self. This is how the mind suffers. It all starts from not being able to see the truth that the body and the mind are solely suffering. They do not alternate between happiness and unhappiness. They are pure suffering, only to different degrees. If you can see this truth, the mind will let go of desires, cravings, and attachments. When you desire something, you cling to it. Clinging gives rise to becoming and struggling, which gives rise to birth, acquiring the senses, especially the abstract perception. The mental sense acquisition is the last one that the mind will let go. The physical senses are let go first, because it is easier to see that the body is solely suffering. Seeing that the mind is solely suffering is more difficult. But, no matter how you practice, the final battle is in the mind. If the mind cannot let go of itself, rebirths continue. Because ignorance still exists, the ignorant mind sees that the body is solely suffering and is detached from the mind, but it still clings on itself. So, there are attachments to both the body and the mind. The body is let go first, the mind is let go later. This is its natural progress. But in practice, there is no need to start from observing the body. In the four mindfulness discourse, body, feelings, mind, and Dharma are like four doors into a city. You can enter the city of liberation via any door. The choice depends on your temperament. If your mind prefers to observe the body, start by observing the body. Some people do not like to observe the body, but like to observe feelings. They can start by observing the feelings. Some like to observe the mind, seeing the alternations between the wholesome and unwholesome minds. They can practice by observing the mind. Some like to observe all physical and mental phenomena, all wholesomeness and unwholesomeness, and the mind's working process that leads to suffering. This is the delicate practice of the observing phenomena, which is difficult. First, observe the body, the feelings, or the mind. They are easier. But in the end, everyone will practice observing phenomena, because the mind will only be fully enlightened by seeing the noble truth, which is the most delicate, and is the ultimate part of observing phenomena. This last part is called the chapter about the truth. Other chapters contain observing many different physical and mental phenomena. They include unwholesomeness, in the form of hindrances to the mind's stability, some wholesomeness like factors of enlightenment, aggregates, elements, senses, and many others. This part ends with the noble truths and dependent origination. So, whether you start from observing the body, the practice ends with seeing the Four Noble Truths. Whether you start from observing the feelings, the practice ends with seeing the Four Noble Truths. Whether you start from observing the mind, the practice ends with seeing the Four Noble Truths. Why do I talk about the mind often? Because observing the body has been taught a lot. Many masters also said 30 to 40 years ago that the next generation of people will be full of thoughts and opinions that will be their temperament. They will not have sufficient peacefulness to observe the body, as they will think about the body instead. Nor can they observe physical feelings, because their minds do not have enough peacefulness and strength. They lack samadhi and cannot endure observing physical suffering. So, with the temperament that is full of thoughts and opinions, their minds are restless. We today are what the previous generation masters called city people. City people do not do physical work. They do knowledge work and are full of thoughts. Once they get off from work, they think about other things. They think about the economy, the society, politics, international relations, the military, war, and countless other topics. So, it is difficult for them to have stability that matches their master's generation. We are full of things to think about. So, the masters said that practice of observing the mental formations will prosper in the city. This is so because mental formation observation is suitable for people with a character that is full of views and opinions. This is in line with what is in the scripture. Observing the mental formations is suitable for people with intellectual nature. This is a different topic than practicing samadhi. Practicing samadhi is in 40 objects of meditation. you pick one that you are skilled at. The objective is to gain peacefulness. But for wisdom cultivation, whether to observe the body, the feelings, or the mental compositions first, depends on your nature or temperament. If you are full of views and opinions, start by observing the mental formations, and deep concentration will be attained later. For people who observe the body or the physical feelings, attaining deep concentration before observing the body or the physical feelings will allow you to make good progress. If the mind does not have enough concentration, observing the body will not be fruitful. But if the mind has attained deep concentration, observe the body. When the mind observes the hair disintegrates. When you observe the body, hair, nails, teeth, skin, muscles, ligaments, and bones, this disintegration also happens. Whatever body part the mind observes, disintegration occurs. This immediately shows the impermanence, conflict and decay, and the non-self nature of the objects. It is possible because of the strength of the deep concentration. If your mind lacks that level of strength, the mind will be restless, running around in many thoughts, and you cannot attain a long period of concentration. If that is so, observe the mental compositions instead. Observing the mind is not some complicated, mysterious practice. Whatever the mind is like, know so. There are 3 rules for observing the mind. 1. Let the phenomena arise first before you know. When greed arises, know so. When anger arises, know so. When delusion arises, know so. When the mind gets diffused or disheartened, know so. Let the phenomena arise first, then have mindfulness knowing them. It is impossible to have both anger and mindfulness in the mind at the same time, because mindfulness only arises with wholesome minds. When the mind is greedy, angry, delusionary, the mind is unwholesome, and mindfulness at that moment is not possible. So, when we observe the mind, we observe what has just happened, but the observation has to be quick. The recollection must be immediately continuing from the present. Once anger arises, know so. Once greed arises, know so. So, the first rule is, do not seek what the mind currently is. Whether it is greedy, angry, or delusional, do not seek. Once you seek, the mind is already delusional and diffused. This makes you unable to observe the mind, because diffusion is unwholesome. It lacks mindfulness to observe the mind. So, when you observe the mind, do not be greedy to observe it. Do not try to observe it. Do not seek to know what the mind is currently like. Let the phenomena arise first, then know them. The second rule is stability. Observe the mind as an outsider, with no skin in the game. Do not plunge your mind into the phenomena. Almost all practitioners observe the body by plunging the mind into the body. Or, when observing the mental phenomena, let the phenomena engulf the mind. For example, when you observe the breathing, the mind becomes unstable and overly focuses on the breathing. When observing the belly expanding and contracting, the mind gets drawn towards the belly. When walking, the mind gets engrossed in the feet's movements. The mind wanders off its base. As for practicing observing the mind, when anger arises, the mind wanders off and gets absorbed into anger. This mind is unstable and is unable to be a separate observer, the quality that lets the mind become a separate observer is samadhi. So we practice to know the phenomena quickly together with practicing samadhi. It is rare to see people who can attain deep concentration in our generation. I rarely meet one in 1,000 people. The way to practice samadhi for people without jhana is practicing momentary concentration. We do so by having mindfulness observing the mind. Like, when the mind gets absorbed into the breathing, no so. When the mind gets absorbed into observing the belly, no so. When the mind gets absorbed into observing the feet, no so. When the mind wanders off to think, no so. The moment that you know so, the diffusion and wandering off will immediately cease, because the mind that is diffused is the mind that is delusional. Once the mind knows this diffusion, whether it diffuses through the eye, ear, nose, tongue, body, or something abstract, the diffusion will cease and the upright mind will arise momentarily. This will not last long, and the mind will wander off again. Keep knowing so. That is why I tell you that you must formally practice every day. Pick a practice object and observe the mind. For example, breathe in and silently recite Bud. Breathe out with Do. Do not aim for peacefulness. Keep reciting Bud, and once the mind gets absorbed into the breathing, know so. If the mind wanders off into the world of thoughts, know so. At the moment of knowing so, the mind becomes upright for a moment. The wandering will repeat, know so. Keep knowing the wandering off phenomenon. Eventually, the mind that wanders off and the mind that knows so will alternate quickly. Once the knowing mind arises often, the mind will gain strength, and you will feel as if the mind had continuous mindfulness. If you practice like this, you will know that this continuity is an illusion of something quickly happening repeatedly. Even in deep concentration, the mind repeatedly enters deep concentration. But this is very hard to observe for someone who is not skillful at observing the mind. They think that deep concentration is a persistent stability. When we formally practice, which we must do, we choose a practice object and know the mind. Like reciting Bud, but once the mind wanders off to think, know so. Knowing so, the mind will be upright. The mind will separate itself from the phenomena and become an observer. That is what I mean by the term the knowing mind. The scripture calls this the great wholesome mind with wisdom that arises without intention. So, you know this refers to the knowing mind. So, the first rule is, do not seek. Let the phenomena arise first, then know so. The second rule is, when you observe, do not let the mind get engrossed into the phenomena. Practice until the mind becomes a separate observer of all phenomena. This is the second rule. So, rule number 1. Do not seek to know what the mind is like right now. Let the phenomena arise, and then know what they are. Rule number 2. When knowing, do not get immersed in the phenomena. The mind must be a knowing, awakened, and blissful one. To have such a mind, practice by picking a practice object. And be mindful when the mind wanders off. Rule number 3. Do not interfere with the phenomena. If happiness arises, do not be lured in. If the mind gets engrossed by happiness, know so. If displeasure arises, do not be down. If the mind gets down, know so. The mind will become impartial. A bright mind is attained by practicing the second rule. The third rule lets the mind develop the ability to know impartially. So, when the mind knows a phenomenon, and happiness or unhappiness arises, know so. After a while, the mind will become impartial to all phenomena. the mind that is impartial to all phenomena, is the mind without bias towards phenomena? It does not like one or hate another. It is not afraid of anything. Sometimes, fear rises when you see the mind arises and ceases, as you feel that self disappears. Seeing self disappearing from the body also leads to this fear. This fearful mind is biased. The mind can be biased because of fear, delusions, greed, and aversion. If any partiality arises, know so. This is, concisely, about impartiality. So when knowing phenomena, know the partiality that arises, whether it is happiness or sadness. So, I summarize the practice into a sentence. Be mindful of the body and mind as they are, with an upright, impartial mind. Being mindful of the body and mind as they really are means whatever happens in the body, know so. Whatever happens in the mind, know so. Like, if the body moves, know so. If the mind just got angry, know that anger has just happened. Do the same with aversion, delusion, diffusion, or despair has just arisen. There is a difference between knowing the physical and mental phenomena. The mind knows the body as it presently is, like the body is currently moving or the body is currently still. The same applies for breathing in or out. These actions are the current reality of the body. The mind can see the body as it currently is. Observing the mental phenomena is slightly different. You have to wait until a mental phenomenon arises before you can see it. Like, anger has just arisen, and immediately afterwards, the mind knows that anger has just arisen. The practice is the same with greed. But if you were angry yesterday, and the mind just knows so today, that is too late. The mind must detect the phenomena that has recently just arisen to be a proper practice. So, there is a slight difference in observing the body and the mind. The mind observes the body in the present. Like the body is smiling, the body is frowning, the body is breathing in or out. Observe the body this way. But for the mind, know the mental phenomena right after they have arisen, closely afterwards. Doing so will allow the mind to see the truth of the phenomena. They arise and cease, they come and go. We let the mind see this repeatedly. The second rule is, when observing a phenomenon, do not be immersed in it. This is the upright mind. The third rule is, after the mind has observed a phenomenon and partiality or bias arises, know so. This leads to an impartial mind. This is the summary. Be mindful of the body and mind as they are, is rule number 1. With an upright mind is rule number 2. With an impartial mind is rule number 3. There is only a slight difference in rule number 1. When observing the body and the mind, for observing the body, know it as it currently is, whether it is moving, smiling, or frowning. Know the body as it currently is, like it is currently breathing out, breathing in, standing, walking, sitting, or lying down. For observing the mind, let the phenomena appear first, and immediately know it afterwards. So, the essence of practice is, be mindful of the body and mind as they are, with an upright and impartial mind. Once you understand the subtle difference between observing the body and the mind, practicing is not difficult. If you want to practice by observing the mental phenomena, because your mind is so restless, and attaining deep absorption is impossible, keep observing the ever-changing mental phenomena. See that the mind jumps around from being greedy to not greedy, being angry to not angry, being in delusion to not in delusion, or alternating between restlessness and sluggishness. Keep knowing so. Eventually, wisdom will arise, and stability will also arise. When you observe phenomena repeatedly, momentary stability arises. The stability will grow stronger until you can attain near absorption stability. Continue to practice. Even if you cannot attain absorption stability, keep observing the phenomena repeatedly for days, months, and years. Keep practicing like this repeatedly with diligence. Follow the 3 rules. They are the principles. Once your moral precepts, samadhi, and wisdom are whole, the mind will enter deep absorption automatically. Even if the mind has never attained as deep an absorption before, the mind enters deep absorption without any intention. It is possible for the mind to even enter formless absorption, where the external senses cease and the outside world disappears, and only the mental perception remains. The mind then enters the enlightenment phase. The enlightenment process takes 7 moments. It is the mind's natural progress. No one created or designed it this way. It is the way it is. So, practice. If you can observe mental phenomena, do so. Many masters similarly said that observing mental phenomena is the shortest practice path. Why so? Because dependent origination, all the noble truths, manifests itself only at the mind. If you cannot attain the ability to truly observe the mind, you will not see the dependent origination or the noble truths. Where does ignorance manifest itself? At the mind. Where does fabrication manifest itself? At the mind. Consciousness itself is the mind. Physical and mental phenomena is perceived with the mind. Senses like eyes, ears, nose, tongue, and body are the physical, but they need the mind to operate. A dead person may have eyes, but cannot see anything. So, the mind makes the senses work. Feelings arises at the mind. Desires or cravings arises at the mind. Clinging or attachment arises at the mind. Struggle for existence or becoming arises at the mind. The mind attaching itself to senses birth is the work of the mind. Suffering also arises at the mind. So, if the practice is focused at the mind, it will be short. But if you cannot observe mental phenomena, observe the body instead. Many masters of the previous generations started their practice by observing the body. The difference is that we do not have deep concentration like they did. So, the observation of the body is commonest practice. Deep concentration will result from this practice. Observe the body as different parts like head hair, body hair, nails, teeth, skin, flesh, ligaments, and bones. Observe each separately. The 5 objects of meditation is not a joke. What are the 5 objects? Head hair, body hair, nails, teeth, and skin. When a man is entering monkhood, the preceptor monk must teach the new monk the 5 objects of meditation. Skipping this teaching is an offense. So this teaching is very useful. If you cannot observe the mind, observe the body. Look at your hair. Note its shape, color, and smell. But there is no need to go as far as tasting it. Is the hair actually good smelling or smelly? It is good smelling because of the shampoo. It is actually not much different from dog hair. It has a rotten smell. Imagine if Miss Universe skips washing her hair for a month. No one will want to be near her. The body is actually dirty and repulsive. Observe each of its parts carefully until you see its true nature. Do not jump around from each part to the next quickly, finishing observing under a minute. That will not work. If you practice by observing the body, observe thoroughly. What is the hair's shape, color, smell? Is it clean or dirty? Is it permanent or impermanent? Will it last forever? Can you control it to not turn grey? Or, if you just had your hair done and you like the look. Can you tell the hair not to get longer? At first, you think about these traits, but eventually you will see. At first, it was a thought, use thinking to lead the mind to see the body's traits. Eventually, the mind will see the body's true characteristics. It is not yourself, nor yours. It is not something desirable. This is how you should practice observing the body. Use the same method to observe the body hair, nails, teeth, and skin. You use imagination for the flesh, ligaments, or bones. Because we cannot see our one bone, except for our teeth. You can observe teeth. The 5 objects cover hair, body hair, nails, teeth, and skin. That is why the list ends here. You can use the teeth to represent the bones of the entire body. So, observe a tooth. What is its shape, color, smell? Is it permanent or impermanent? Can it last forever? If it could, there would be no cavities. Is it you, or is it under your control? Can you control it to be beautiful? You cannot. Can you control it to not erode? You cannot. Observe and think repeatedly. Use the thoughts to lead the mind to see its true nature. This thinking is a calmness practice. It results in stability, not wisdom. The wisdom arises when the mind actually sees. Insight meditation is the mind seeing. Thinking is calmness. So, when you think about the body, the thinking is calmness practice. But you can think until the mind gets wiser and starts to see the truth by itself. The mind sees hair, body hair, nails, teeth, and skin as not self, nor belonging to self. If the mind sees this on its own, it is insight or wisdom. Insight is seeing, thinking is calmness. It is not difficult, but you need to persevere. If you can observe the mind, do so. If you cannot observe the mind, observe the body, and think about it repeatedly. Eventually, there will be no bodily object to consider. The mind will let go of the body. Once the mind lets go of the attachment to the body, the study continues at the mind. Dependent origination manifests itself at the mind. So, no matter how you start the practice, the final lesson is studying the mind. You can start by observing the body, feelings, or other compositions, but the final study is at the mind. Practice diligently and pick a path that is suitable for you. Do not imitate others. Whatever path is recommended to you may be good for the recommender, but may not be good for you. Each one of us has a unique way. If there was only one best path for practice, the Buddha would not have taught so many. The 4 foundations of mindfulness practice are all good. That is it for today. Is it too difficult? Number 1.
Number 1. I practice by observing my breathing and silently chanting Buddho. Then I examine the body that is moving. My mind is lost and diffused a lot. I have practiced for a long time, but I feel like I have not made progress. Is my mind upright and can separate the aggregates?
Your mind can. Show me how you practice. Observe the mind while observing the breathing. Do it as if I am not here, so I can guide. Do you see that while observing the breathing, the mind is constantly changing? Know this phenomenon. Breathe and know what the mind is doing, so your mind's stability will be stronger. Can you see that it is like you are in a boat that is rocking from side to side? Do not try to fix this, just know it. Once the mind becomes really upright, the wisdom development will be more swift, and you will make progress. Practice correctly, so the mind becomes sufficiently upright. Then, wisdom development will be brief and swift. Your aggregates are already separated. Number 2.
Number 2. I formally practice every day. I try to create the mind's impartiality. I do not let the mind wander off or overfocus. I can sometimes see that both the body and the mind are the results of some causes, and they cannot be controlled. During the day, I use phenomena as my practice object. I see anger, boredom, and diffusion, but all of these arise first, then I know later. I have read a lot, so my ego is strong, but I still cannot eliminate it. Please give me more guidance.
There is no need to eliminate anything. Detachment is the function of wisdom. It will occur automatically. Your duty is to continuously practice. Have you noticed that? You have to let the mental phenomena arise first before you can see them. That is what I just taught. Listen to it again. So, being mindful of the mental phenomena that have just arisen is the correct practice. It is impossible to see them before they occur. Unwholesome mental phenomena cannot exist at the same time as mindfulness. That is normal. So mindfulness arises after mental phenomena. And do not try to make the mind impartial. If the mind is happy, know so. If it is not, know so. Whichever way the mind is biased to, the mind is not self. You cannot force or choose it to be one way or the other. But you can know it. If the mind is happy, know so. If it is unhappy, know so. The partiality will cease, and impartiality will arise. This is because happiness and unhappiness are tied to ignorance, lust or greed, and aversion. Just be mindful, and impartiality will come. Do not be so keen to attain enlightenment. Do not hurry. Keep a calm and relaxed attitude. Keep observing. The result will occur at the appropriate time. Craving enlightenment prevents it from happening. Number 3.
Number 3. I chant Namo Tassa as my practice object. I formally practice by chanting and doing sitting meditation. Whichever phenomena appear clearly to me, I see them. I see my breathing. I see the mind being dense. I see muscle aches. I see the mind getting lost. It feels as if the silent chanting always stays with me. Right now, I feel a lumpy tenseness in my neck. Its intensity varies. I also feel this lump gives out coldness, hotness, or bursting feeling. Please advise.
Listen to yesterday's lecture. I explained in detail about the tenseness. It probably has shown up on YouTube, has it? Go listen to it again. I explained yesterday that tenseness arises from the mind's clinging. This results in the mind struggling, which gives rise to tenseness. Practice continuously. Show me how you practice as if you were not here. Be careful, the delusion can sneak in. Do not subdue the mind towards dullness. Mindfulness is essential for practice. Okay, the practice is good. Keep observing, and the progress will come naturally. Number 4.
Number 4. I formally practice daily in the evening by doing walking meditation for an hour. During the day, I silently recite Buddho, and mostly see the mind wander off to think, or to become overfocused. My mind is impartial and is displeased by phenomena. I am more mindful of the mind interfering with itself. My mind likes to wander off and is unstable. Mindfulness also arises only infrequently. Is what I am practicing correct?
It is correct. Keep practicing and mindfulness will arise more frequently, but you need determination and focus. Do not be lured by the world. Live in it and think about it only for the essential stuff. But deep inside your mind, you must know that the purpose in life is to be liberated. Some masters teach students to think of liberation constantly. This is to remind oneself of one's goal. If you are determined to achieve liberation, the laziness will cease, and you will continue to practice. You will know whichever practice is correct or incorrect by yourself. Like, when the mind becomes greedy, it will be tense. When the mind wants to become wholesome, suffering arises. Learn about them with patience, and understanding will follow. Your practice is okay, but the mind lacks stability. Do you see that right now? The mind is outside. Breathe. Do not reel the mind in. Just breathe. Your mind tends to overthink. Learn to observe the mind that wanders off in different directions. Keep knowing its actions. The moment that you know that the mind has moved, it will get upright, and the mind will be right on its base. Right now, your mind has wandered off to think. Do you know? The mind is now upright on its base. So, when the mind wanders off to think, know so. Do not reel it in. It will become upright by itself. So, there are many ways to make the mind upright. Like, when you observe breathing comfortably, the mind can become upright. But if observing breathing makes the mind sleepy, the mind will not be upright. We keep observing. Once the mind moves, know so, and the mind will eventually be upright. Once the mind is upright, wisdom cultivation will be quick. If the mind is outside and unstable, wisdom cultivation is not really possible, as thinking will be mixed in, and the mind is not purely seeing. If the mind is truly upright on its base, it will become an observer. If the mind merely observes, wisdom cultivation is possible. Number 5.
Number 5. I formally practice walking meditation by observing the vibration in the body. I do it 2 to 3 times a day. Each time, I do it for about 15 to 20 minutes. So, I practice 40 to 60 minutes daily. Outside of formal practice, I observe the body's movement, but I feel that mindfulness arises infrequently. Do I have sufficient samadhi?
Do not let the mind slowly wander off. You have some stability, but it is not yet correct. It is not proper samadhi. Proper samadhi is upright, not peaceful. If your mind wanders off its upright base, stays with emptiness, and becomes peaceful like this, your samadhi is not proper. It is unstable and improper. The mind must rest with itself. So, practice seeing the mind that wanders off. Once it does, know so. Once the mind sinks into breathing, know so. Once the mind wanders off to think about something, know so. Focus the practice on this one. Keep breathing while observing the mind. Eventually, the mind will be truly upright on its base, and you will gain proper stability. Once you have attained proper stability, it is easy to see the phenomena. Right at this moment, it is incorrect. It is like you are doing this. You stretch the mind up a bit. Get back to normal. Do not try to lift the mind up. Try to think about your toe, either left or right. Now stop. Can you see the difference? The mind was floating before. That floating is not good. Do not do it. It is incorrect. The mind must stay with the body or the mind. The mind is floating upwards again. This is so because the mind is used to it. When I told you to focus on the toe, it was the exact opposite. When the mind tried to float up, I told you to put the focus downward. This is fixing the incorrect samadhi, fixing the bad symptoms. Wisdom cultivation is about seeing. Samadhi is about practicing, so some activity is needed. Wisdom cultivation is about seeing. Samadhi is about practicing, so some activity is needed. Try to focus on your lower belly. Can you see that the mind has moved down? Keep observing this, and do not let the mind float up. Let the mind stay with yourself. Number 6.
Number 6. I formally practice by doing walking meditation and observing my breathing. I know my mind is naturally very diffused. Every time it thinks, impurity arises. I see my arrogance often. I am partial towards the phenomena. My weakness is insufficient stability. I need to think and interact with people at work, and that drains my strength every day. Please advise.
When you interact with a lot of people, it is hard to practice peacefulness. So, do not observe the mind when you are interacting with a lot of people. Observe the body. See that the body is never chaotic or diffused. The body never wanders away, but you cannot observe the mind. It has wandered off. If you cannot observe the mind, observe the body. This is what I used to practice as well. I was working in the Prime Minister's office. The work was hectic and stressful all day. I periodically took breaks. After some work, the head was spinning, and I was unable to observe the mind. I observed the body by taking a bathroom break. I moved. When you are sitting on a chair with armrests, the hands move before you can get up. I saw my body rising. I saw my body walking. I did not over-focus on the body. For men, they pee standing up. Once I was done and on my walking back, I could start to observe the mind. So, if you cannot observe the mind, do not force yourself to. Do not try to observe it. Observe the body first. Once the mind has gained some strength, it will start to observe the mind later. It is easier this way. If it is chaotic, where can you find the mind? It is engaging in a lot of thinking. The body never thinks. Can you see? The body is sitting still, and it is easy to observe. It always stays. So, when the mind is diffused, observe the body. Number 7.
Number 7. For my formal practice, I recite the formal chants in the morning and the evening. I practice walking and sitting meditation for 2 hours each day. When I observe my breath, I silently recite Buddho. When I do formal chanting and doing walking meditation, my mind has good stability. I see the knowing mind and see the mind that wanders off. In daily life, I observe the body and the mind. I still have anger, but once I become mindful of it, I can let it go. Please give me advice for the correct practice.
Keep practicing. It will keep getting more and more correct. Once the mind is with itself, practice separating the aggregates. See that the body, the feelings, and the knowing mind are separate entities. See each of them working. If any impurity, like diffusion, arises, know so. Or if arrogance creeps in, manifesting the feeling of self-superiority, know so. Have you seen the feeling that I am always correct? Keep observing this. I am superior, and I am correct or vicious. Know them. Once you know them, they will cease. Impurity is no match for mindfulness. Keep practicing, and it will get better. Be patient and be mindful of any impurity. Number 8.
Number 8. I formally practice every day by doing walking and sitting meditation. I also try to practice mindfulness in daily life, but I can do so to a varying extent. I am not yet skillful at switching between calmness and wisdom cultivation practices. My problem is I mispractice without knowing so, or I know so too late. I feel that this wastes my time. Please advise.
We learn from our mistakes. We do not try to make or create the correct practice. It is impossible to do so, because it is non-self. So, If the mind makes a mistake from practice, know so. The mistakes are the teacher. The practice will get more correct. What you are practicing is okay. Gradually learn from the wrong things. Using mistakes as your teacher is correct. Can you see that there is a part of your mind that is still? Inside, there is something that is still. Do not try to preserve it. The knowing mind also rises and falls. The knowing mind is impermanent. Like, right now, the knowing mind has fallen, and the thinking mind arises. Do you see? Let the mind be natural. Do not let it be tense. Static tension like this is not good. It is tiring. Your mind is not yet natural. It still consists of one still element. Your mind has just wandered off to think. Do you know so? Be clear about the principles of practice. When the mind wanders off to think, know so. This is enough. Proper samadhi will arise. For number 8, your mind is endowed with a lot of wisdom. Do not worry about wisdom practice. Your mind just needs the correct stability, and the mind will be ready to cultivate wisdom. To get correct stability, keep practicing knowing the mind that wanders off. Do not prevent the mind from wandering off, but keep knowing once it has wandered off. Do this repeatedly, and right stability will arise. After that, wisdom cultivation will be swift. Right now, it is correct. Can you feel it? The stability right here is different than what your mind was previously. Your mind was floating in the air before. That was incorrect. Keep knowing the mind that wanders off. Have a practice object, and keep observing the mind that wanders off. The mind has come back. Do you know so? This is the correct stability. Can you feel that this mind is light, soft, comfortable, relaxed, and not stuck? Your samadhi practice resulted in the mind that was stuck in the air, stuck and still. Keep knowing the mind that wanders off frequently. Once the mind is upright, it will see phenomena rising and falling. The mind will be just a knower of the phenomena. This is correct. You are skillful and can fix your mistakes quickly. That is it for today.